first, if I can just maybe kick off with a few words of context. We've got, I think, 25 minutes, and then we'll have maybe some questions just at the end. But a few words of context, first of all. You may know everything that I'm going to share with you right now. And you also may feel that what I share is oversimplified. And really all I ask is that as you listen in, please just ask yourself the question, am I doing what I know? Because in my experience as a business coach, what I've found to be true is a famous quote which says that people need to be reminded more often than they need to be instructed. Or put another way, to know and not do is not to know. So this is really about taking action on what we know. And as a business coach, I'm the first to confess that, you know, the title business coach is a bit of a daft title because it does imply that you know a business can be coached. At the end of the day, a business is only exists as an entity at Companies House, and so business is really a collection of people. And my job as a business coach is really to create change within people and help them to ultimately grow. Now, imagine if everyone in your business were to grow. What would happen to your business? Well, it can't fail but to grow. So we prefer to say that, you know, we don't grow businesses, we grow people, and it's, you know, people that then grow the business. So because coaching's a people business, when it comes to the subject of leadership, which is really what Suzie had asked if I could talk about today, I'll be honest and say that I find it really hard to have a conversation about leadership without having an equally weighted conversation about management, because to me they are really two sides of the same coin. So leadership and management, like coaching, is all about people, and it's all about their performance. So what my aim is to do today is to really cover probably 4 key things. I want to share with you, you know, what are the key outputs of management and of leadership. Want to also talk a little bit about what are the 4 things that a good manager will do, and what are the 4 things that a good leader will do. And then I want to suggest for you an identity which I think would serve you very well as you seek to influence your people. And then finally, just at the end, if we've got a chance, I'll invite you to, you know, engage in a little quick team check, which is something I share with all of the clients that I work with, really so that they can self-assess to see where they might be able to improve in terms of their leadership and management. So that's the kind of the format for the next 20 minutes. Is that okay with everyone?
Perfect.
Okay, fantastic, great. So look, let me start first of all with performance, because I did say that this is about people and their performance. And performance really is a choice for your people to make. And it really is up to you as a leader or a manager to help them make the right choices. So what I'm going to introduce you to just now is a cornerstone philosophy in our coaching, and it's called above and below the line. So really what the line represents here is the line of choice. So it's our belief that you can choose your own performance, and clearly there are attributes of low performance, and there are some attributes of high performance too. So attributes of low performance really are summarized by, you know, blame, excuses, and denial. So these might be things that you see happening in your business. And really, you know, summarized best by, you know, it's the victim mentality within a business. And really, it's no use to anyone because it's a very backward moving, stagnating type of environment to have in a business. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to promote what I would describe as above the line behaviors, which is ownership, accountability, and responsibility, which is clearly the opposite of the below. And we really were trying to promote here a victor type mentality that really does drive and move us forward. Now, as a philosophy, you might have seen this before, or you may not have. But really, what we're trying to kind of get to here is that leadership seems to get the sexier of the two tags here between leadership and management. But actually, below the line behaviors in any business fundamentally will come down to two reasons. The first reason would be recruitment has gone wrong. Because at the end of the day, if you've got an individual or a set of individuals who are engaging in this kind of behavior, then you have to say, well, how on earth did someone like that arrive in our business? So of course you would go back and check your recruitment system. But if you've actually satisfied yourself that no, our system is good, there's something else that's gone wrong. And I put that down squarely to bad management or ineffective management. And that is, and ultimately what we're trying to do through good management is eliminate or minimize these behaviors. So for example, bad management could be, if something goes wrong with a customer and I ask the question, why did that happen? Immediately, just by a poor framing of the question, you are triggering the kind of behaviors you actually don't want to see in your people, because you're going to get, oh, it wasn't me, it was her, or an excuse of some description, or maybe even, oh, really, did that happen? I didn't know. So you'll get the kind of the burying the head in the sand or ignoring the problem. You just trigger the wrong behavior by asking the wrong type of question. A good manager would ask a different type of question. Now, again, if we had more time, I might kind of engage you here in terms of asking you, well, what would be a better question? But I'll let you know. A better question in that circumstance would be something like, look, what are the three things in the next that we need to do in the next 10 minutes that will actually make this right for the customer? Because if you think about the framing of that question, we're talking here about having a time frame. Look, in the next 10 minutes, and then a detail orientation. What are the three things that we need to do? So we're putting the question back to our team members to come up with something, and then we're forward moving. We're not languishing in the past, because that's no use to anyone. Maybe a sweep up at the end of the situation, fine, but not in the moment. So we can trigger the right kind of behaviors in our team just by asking better quality questions. So that's our job is to promote these behaviors of taking responsibility, which of course is the opposite of blame. But actually, rather than actually hearing someone come up with an excuse for a non-delivery of whatever it might be, a project, a number, actually, how do we hold them accountable, or how do we encourage them to hold themselves accountable? And rather than actually ignoring something that's wrong or a problem that could be fixed, but hoping it'll go away, actually, how do we just engender a culture where people take ownership and get stuff done? So really, that's our job, is to help our people make the right choices to allow them to perform. So what identity might be a really helpful one for you? Well, look, what I see quite a lot happening in sort of small, medium-sized businesses is there is this identity of the business owner being the superhero. And if you have that as your identity, then I suggest to you it's not a great way to lead or manage the team. Because as good as you are, you're probably going to be saying things like this, that says, if you want a job done right, do it yourself, or it's much quicker if I do it myself. And we start to build people's reliance on us as the leader in order to move things forward. And really our encouragement to all of the clients that we work with is, look, stop tying the shoelaces for your team. Because if you have a little kid, there's going to come a point in time where you're going to have to just let them do their own thing for themselves. And yes, it'll take a bit longer, but clearly you've got to give them the chance to learn and then grow. So again, what might you be doing with your team that's doing the work for them? Because a far better identity to embrace, I would suggest, for leadership and management is one of people builder. So an identity that says, I am a people builder. And it's a far more empowering and ultimately more satisfying way to be. Because what we've got here is, when your team come to you with a question, ask them a question back. because they're looking for an answer, but you shouldn't be the one giving it. Now, okay, there's situations in which it's appropriate to do so, but actually, how do we make sure that we activate their brain so that they can think of the solution to the problem? How do we get them to a position where they're reviewing their own performance? You don't have to pull them up on performance. They're assessing their own performance and they're against the standard, and then they're telling you, look, I want to get better here, here, and here. Can you help me? Because we are trying to build resilience in an individual, in our teams. We don't want to build a reliance upon us. So this idea of how do we really kind of get a culture of training people and being patient so that we actually can get a return ultimately on the investment, because that's what training is. If you view yourself as a people builder, because this, remember, coaching underpins good management and good leadership, and it's a people business. So this is about how do we invest in people. So, moving on. So there are four things I want to just share with you, and I've already touched on the fact that coaching really is this idea of I've yet to find a better system or a better way of getting the most out of people than through coaching. So what is it we're trying to do in coaching? Well, we're trying to ultimately create confident and motivated people. And I'm pretty sure as leaders and managers within your business, that's what you want. You want people who are able to stand up straight, be confident, know what they're doing, and ultimately forthrightly put forward their perspective and opinion, because that's what we want to. We want to have a team of people like that, and also to have a level of respect for others that's as high as their own respect for themselves. That says, you've got a different perspective as well, and let me listen to that. So that's what we're trying to create in coaching. Once we've got people who are confident and motivated, and I'm stealing really here for those of you who know Clive Woodward, who obviously led England to World Cup success back in the 90s. He had a concept called teamship, and this is really where you get good individuals now participating as a team. And what we want to try to encourage and achieve is getting people who are absolutely committed to being part of that team, and who also understand what the rules and routines are, such that they will actually follow the disciplines that make the team great. Now, these are the two areas that fundamentally will flow through everything that you do in management and leadership. So I said at the start, I want to share with you what are the key outputs from good managers and good leaders. Well, from a management perspective, all we are trying to achieve in our people is to help make them competent and productive people. And I'm going to share with you the four things that we need to do. If we want to be good managers, there's four things really that we need to kind of get busy getting good at. Competent and productive people. I know how to do my job, and I can do it to the quality and the quantity metrics required of me. And then on leadership is really about having passionate and focused people within the business. So you'll see that the icons that I've put against these, we want to really activate people's brains, so the logic needs to be applied in good management. And then leadership is about getting the heart of the business pumping. And again, I'm going to spend a little bit more time here explaining these two particular bits. We don't have time to kind of go into coaching and teamship. Maybe with questions, feel free to kind of chime away with your questions. But again, here are the two things that I guess Suzie ultimately said, let's speak about. So with management and we're looking to get this competency and productivity. So the four things, what are the four things that we need to be doing as good managers? Well, I guess the first thing that we're looking to achieve is a high level of clarity. Because if you can recall what the first thing that I shared, which was above and below the line, the one thing that we're trying to kind of move people away from is a blame culture. We want people to be crystal clear on what's expected of them when they come to work. And again, typically we say that we're effectively giving over in order for me to kind of hand responsibility over to someone, effectively what I'm looking to do is a bit like holding a baton on a relay race. I'm not going to hand that over and let go of it until I know that the person on the other side has got a good understanding and a good grasp of what I'm handing over to them. And it's my responsibility initially to check in and say, look, have you got this? Do you understand? Have I communicated sufficiently well that you've got this? And only at the point at which I get almost the thumbs up, I let go, because we want to move people onto a responsibility footing. Once we've done a good job on that, we need to make, and by the way, I see people falling down all of the time on this. Things are vague and wishy-washy, and it becomes really hard to manage people when you're unclear. But once you have set that level of expectation, then it becomes much easier to do the next thing, which is about measuring performance. So holding people accountable, or again, ideally, they'd hold themselves accountable for the delivery against the expectation that's been set. This one's a challenge for most people in business because people don't like having conversations around performance. It gets a bit uncomfortable for people. But I'll tell you, it becomes much easier when you've actually been clear in your expectations and there is an objective way of actually assessing performance. So again, measurement would be the thing that falls in after clarity. Then we're looking for systems. Again, I'm talking to a panel of franchisors here. You know the benefits of systems, but as a spotty youth at the age of about 15 or 16, I worked in McDonald's in Stirling where I grew up. And systems gave me competence because I could pretty much on day one standing in front of the burger station and effectively follow the checklist that was in front of me that says do step 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and I could pretty much create a Big Mac. So the systems really help build competence, and the more you build your competence, you're building confidence. And then against the system, we train people. And again, if I carry on the analogy or the example, I should say, of McDonald's, then all that was required was for my manager or supervisor at the time to look over my shoulder, watch how I was following the system, and then give me some helpful prompts or nudges to say, actually do it like that or do it like this. And again, the quality and the speed, the quantity started to improve. So now these are 4 simple words, but there's a bag of stuff that sit underneath each of these things in order to help people to get better. But if you do a good job on those 4 things, you've started to eliminate the opportunity for blame, excuses, and denial to exist within your business. And you're getting people onto a nice footing, which is much more about ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Oops. Because then good management then makes leadership kind of really kick in, because you've got people, they know, they're clear on what it is that they have to do. But what we're trying to do in leadership is we're trying to get people to genuinely want to be here. And so therefore a key element is, how do we enroll people around the vision? What is it that we are trying to achieve with this business? And are we constantly reminding people about where we're going? It's a major aspect of good leadership. And then on the journey towards that hopefully inspiring destination, we want to make sure that we're getting people passionate that says, yeah, this is the kind of place that I want to be in. Because that's where, and you had a session, I think, last time about values and culture. Well, this is exactly right. We want to make sure that we are creating the kind of environment that people want to be in. This is how we behave on the journey of doing our work. And then communicate to engage. And again, during COVID, my word, have we ever had to really step up our communication as leaders? But the idea of communicate is so true. Now, so for those of you who know Jack Welch, who was deemed to be the CEO of the century when he was at General Electric, he actually famously said that in terms of communication, and he talked about the vision, the values, the strategy, he says, look, only when I am starting to get bored communicating the same thing are people actually even sitting up and starting to listen. So again, there's the rule of 7. You have to say things 7 times before people actually really take on board what you're saying. And then finally, this opportunity to find people doing things right. So rather than catching people doing things wrong. What we're looking for is to engender this spirit of, look, how do we spot when things are going right? And how do we call people out that just says, look, when the business is operating, actually pressing the pause button and saying, stop everyone, have a little look at what so-and-so over here has just done. That's fabulous. And that's, good job. So those are the kind of things that we need to be doing. And I'm making it hopefully sound easy to do, but the reality is it is easy to do if you have an identity for yourself and say, how can I be a people builder? And that's what good leadership and management is all about. So I think pretty much the second last slide I want to share with you is this. Again, we are a systemized business. We are a franchise at Action Coach, and we have our systems that we use. So team mobilization would be the 9-step system that we kind of work with our businesses to help get people fully mobilized. And guess what? It's no surprise as I lay it out for you. The very first thing that we should do, the first 4 things are the acts of leadership. Get crystal clarity on where we're going and communicate the heck out of it. How are we going to do it? So not just coming up with some nice words that sound great, but actually saying, okay, how are we going to do this thing? Give people an idea as to, yeah, I like the vision that we're going for, and I can see how we're going to get there. I can also see how we're going to actually behave. So the definition of culture and values is really important. And I'll maybe show you a little example if we've got time of what I would deem to be an absolute best in class example of real definition of culture. So 1-pager. And then the final act of good leadership is getting clear with people around, okay, what are our goals? What are the milestones for the year? How do we break that down into into a nice rhythm of a half yearly and quarterly key goals to mobilize our team's attention around? So those are the acts of leadership. We start to engage people on an emotional level when we start to do these things. And then we have to kick into a more logical level or management level, which says, okay, an organizational chart will help us understand and help everyone understand who's going to do what then. How do we organize ourselves? There's so much chaos that goes on in most businesses. How do we actually bring some clarity to all of the resource that we've got around us? Within each chart, I mean, the classic E-myth, isn't it? Gerber would have said every single box on that org chart needs to have very clear roles and responsibilities. And that feeds into what employees and team members want anyway. They want to know what's expected of me. How do I know I'll be doing a good job? And that's where KPIs come in. How are we going to measure performance? Too few businesses I'm seeing don't have good quality KPIs that allow people to have a good conversation around, okay, this is what we expect in terms of quality and quantity metrics. And therefore, how can we have a good conversation to help you get better in your role? The systems, of course, I've just touched on that. How do people actually carry out their roles? So again, I use the example of McDonald's standing at the burger station, but for every single role, we need the system, the checklist. And I know, I'm preaching to the converted here when it comes to systems with franchise, right? And then finally, what does the rhythm look like throughout the kind of the working week, month, quarter, and year around how we keep things on track? Again, I see all too often, oh, we're too busy to have a meeting. We're too busy to have a one-to-one with people. That's the soft system that helps the hard system work. And it's the hard system that always seems to be the one that's not pushed aside. The softer systems are, but it's the most important thing to keep it all glued together. So those are the things. Now, again, as I lay these things out, again, the tool I'm going to give you at the end is a way for you to self-assess your business on some of these things. And again, I would ask you just to be honest with yourself. What do you need to get better at within your management and leadership endeavors to help make your team the best it can be? An example I said I'd share with you very quickly. This here was, I was at a conference in Edinburgh a good number of years ago, and it was a business, a charity actually called B1G1, and they threw up their values, and they are the 6 values that are along the top here. And I just looked at this, and they then went on to describe how they use their values, how well defined they are, and how they how they use this to onboard people into the business, to manage performance, to encourage the right kind of behaviors. But all I would say is, I'm going to take a bet, and I'm sure you're running great businesses, but I would bet that most of you don't have a culture that is as well defined as this. But my word, is it worthwhile getting to that level of clarity when it is? Because all too often we get some really good buzzwords that are on graphics on a wall or on a window, and then there's lip service paid to values, but it's blooming important. And that is an act of leadership, is to tie that down so people have clarity on what to expect. So look at this, you'd be under no doubt as to what desire to improve actually means as a value in this business. You know what a leader would be expected to be operating to, what the desired behaviors would be, but also look at that. What's not expected? What would be below expectations? Again, when it comes to performance discussion with your team members, people find it easier to have a conversation about the numbers or the metrics of the job, much harder to talk about behaviors. And actually, when you have something like this, it allows for great performance conversations to happen. So I guess the last thing before we open for questions is that, is this one here, which says, look, here's the quick team check that I said that I would happily send to any one of you who's interested in saying, okay, how do you assess your relationship, if you like, with your team, and what might be the areas that you choose to start working on and getting better? It's again, it's a self-assessment. It's not anyone making a judgment, but it just holds up a really nice set of frameworks to allow you to say, if you care to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting better in that area, and therefore it starts to kind of shine a light on where might be the right place to start.